It's a hard question, but you may see an aerostat here first in the USA before you see another one in East Africa. But there are 5 or 6 different countries that are speaking to us every day to say, come over, bring over. But there's a limited amount of aerostats. The production of aerostats does take some time. It's not something you can kind of start producing because they're $2.5 million, $1.5 million devices. So they're not exactly cheap. But actually, if you compare that to ground infrastructure from existing telcos, legacy infrastructure, then actually it is quite cheap, about 12 times cheaper to deploy an aerostat.
What is up, Ada Nation? Welcome to Dab Central. My name is Fareed, and I'm sitting here with Mickey Watkins, CEO and founder of World Mobile. Mickey, we just met in Colorado. I'm catching up with you now in Vegas. How are you doing?
Always a pleasure to sit with you. Good to meet after meeting so soon. Very good. I'm always impressed by the work that you're doing and the effort you put in. You haven't stopped at this event, I can see that. So well done, smashing it.
Thank you, and I appreciate your time. I know you've got a quick chat coming up here on the main stage, so we're going to just kind of dive right on in. You've given us an overview of what World Mobile is, and the people watching this video are probably aware with what the project has been doing. But as of late, there's been a pretty big announcement that I want to jump into in the Mozambique region. So do you mind touching on, number one, why Mozambique? And then number two, what can we expect in the next couple of weeks?
Are you sure it's not Angola that you're talking about?
I'm pretty sure it's not Angola. You guys did do a good job of, I think, misdirecting a lot of the community. But feel free to go ahead and jump right on in.
Hands up, this was Mike's idea, not mine, but I think it worked pretty well. It was very important to keep that information sensitive because actually it's the first commercial deployment of an aerostat in the African continent that's going to connect people, connect the unconnected. Mozambique is very close to Tanzania's Zanzibar. As everybody knows, we had some struggles getting up our aerostat. 11 months it was down on the ground in Zanzibar, but we couldn't wait any longer. And we have many countries waiting for us to deploy aerostats. Mozambique was number 2 on the list. So it's been fantastic. The regulators have been amazing. The flight authorities have been amazing. The customs and exiles have been amazing. Everybody's been amazing to actually make this happen. And putting up an aerostat isn't just like taking something out of the box, right? It's an operation. So we're in the middle of nowhere. We're backed up by Starlink. So we've got a Starlink over there, which we'll use as the backhaul. And we've got a lot of the community that are local to actually support us as well, which is really meaningful for me personally, and definitely Gregory on the ground. But this aerostat will fly at around 300 meters, and then we'll try to take it up to 500 meters, and then try to take it up even higher. We're working with a tier 1 mobile network operator, a worldwide name, which is a big win for us and a big win for them, to be honest. So we're going to see something that no one's actually ever seen before. And I'm very excited to get those data sets back and actually get to the next stage of mass deployment.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful overview. I know that the community's been waiting, I believe, for over 2 years now, if I'm not mistaken, right, for the first ever aerostat launch. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys are not just the first aerostat in Mozambique, but potentially one of the first in Africa. Is that correct?
The first.
What an impressive achievement. And so just, kudos to you and the entire team for all of your diligent work over the past, years. Now, to that end, we've seen a lot of air nodes deployed in Zanzibar, where I think you guys have now crossed over 448 or 449-ish. Do you mind touching on what we could potentially see with air nodes in the Mozambique region and how that differs in terms of, coverage area compared to an aerostat?
Coverage area, there's no comparison, but you do need both because an aerostat goes up high. It's got a certain limitation of the payload that it can carry, let's say 150 to 170 kilos. With our lightweight antennas and radios, we've managed to really maximize and make that efficient. But you see a lot of people, but when you have a university or you have a big collection of people, you don't really want them on the aerostat, you want them on the grounds because the ground is much easier, much cheaper, and doesn't provide that huge ubiquitous coverage. But when you have people on the air nodes, you've got massive capacity because often those air nodes are plugged in via fiber or backhauled via microwave to fiber. So there's a difference, but both work perfectly together and form what we call the dynamic network.
Interesting to hear. Do you mind maybe touching on when we could expect to see air nodes rolling out in the Mozambique region in addition to the aerostat?
So the first thing is to focus on the aerostat, right? But we should be able to do this pretty quickly. The minute that we're happy with the aerostat, we're happy with the data sets that we've got. Again, the last interview we did, I talked about assumptions. So we've created some assumptions and then we've practiced with those assumptions to get them perfect and see that what we can do is very real here in the United States of America over the last 2 years. But a different environment, different terrain, different backhaul, different obstacles. Now we need to, over the next month, prove the assumptions in Africa, in East Africa, and then at that point we start to say, okay, this is working really well. Now let's go for the sharing economy and start deploying nodes.
Okay, awesome. When could we potentially expect, additional aerostats once you guys get the first one up and running?
It's a hard question, but you may see an aerostat here first in the USA before you see another one in East Africa. But there are 5 or 6 different countries that are speaking to us every day to say, come over, bring over. But there's a limited amount of aerostats. The production of aerostats does take some time. It's not something you can kind of start producing because they're $2.5 million, $1.5 million devices. So they're not exactly cheap. But actually, if you compare that to ground infrastructure from existing telcos, legacy infrastructure, then actually it is quite cheap, about 12 times cheaper to deploy an aerostat than it is to deploy traditional towers at 30 meters. And of course, there's only one central point. So you bring in the fiber or you bring in the Starlink, and you've only got to power one area, one site, one sector, and then you launch it, and then you've got this huge 70 kilometers or more coverage. So soon is when, I know the community love the word soon, but soon you'll see aerostats everywhere.
Yeah, I think the community is excited for that. That's, I think, the biggest key piece. Obviously, again, we have the air nodes going on, but to finally get one of these key pieces that we haven't had before finally up and running, I think is going to be a huge difference maker or a huge game changer for World Mobile, just generally speaking. Now, let's maybe just pivot a little bit. You mentioned the United States. You guys recently released your first mobile network, and I had the opportunity to get a walk around with you, of that infrastructure at Rare Evo. Do you mind touching on some of the progress that has been made within the U.S. and what the next plans are for that?
Two targets. One is helping people fix their own problems. So you don't have good internet at home. You want to be more private at home. You want to provide internet to your community, your neighbors, or your mom or your dad, or you live on a ranch. That's fixing your own problems. So we're there to support that. But actually, our major focus now is on building out the licensed market areas that we have, which is New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, where we're sitting right now, and also North California. So we will be doing batches of release of air nodes to densify networks exactly where the not spots are, right? Hot spots, not spots. So where that's the Swiss cheese. And I think on the last interview, I told you that we put an aerial up in Reno, several now. The amount of attempted connections that we're seeing there has validated all of our assumptions, because it means that the existing mobile network operators, legacy mobile network operators, just simply can't cover or deal with the capacity for their existing customers, and that's not right for them. So we're looking to complement from a wholesale perspective and also from a World Mobile subscriber perspective in these particular zones. And we'll work out how we're going to gamify that and how we're going to get as many people involved as possible. So the beautiful thing about air nodes is actually you don't need to know anything about crypto. You just want to power your community, or you want to be a decentralized distributed mobile network operator. You can just buy one, stick it up on the roof, connect it to the World Mobile Network, and boom, you're ready to go.
How impressive to hear. And I don't think you're going to have to gamify anything. I've already seen the entire World Mobile community just scanning away, without any incentive. And obviously right now the beta application, the global application is in beta. But to see how many of the community are just constantly scanning and spreading the word and awareness surrounding what you guys are doing, I think is going to be huge. And obviously once that goes to mainnet and there's now an incentive for people to actually scan areas, you guys are going to be fed so much data that I think you guys might actually have to, take your time to process that, as opposed to how many people are actually taking their time to scan it. Now, with the actual global application, do you mind maybe touching on what the plans are for getting that out on mainnet? A lot of that right now has just been in testing, and I know you guys have just incorporated I think 9, maybe more than that now, I think about 15 to 17 additional countries.
Yes.
But what are the next plans for mainnet?
It's staged. In terms of the mobile application, the VPN is something we haven't really spoken about, but that is also in production. iOS, for all those viewers that are using an Apple phone, unfortunately it won't work with Scan for Points yet, but we have got a few fix-arounds, but everything else will be available for your phone, because I know you're an iOS user as well. And all of that information is going to feed, with your permission, into Operation AirNode, which a little birdie told me that you might be doing the first review and showcase on Operation AirNode to show everybody how that works and what they need to do. So I'm looking forward to watching that. And that's quite a big feat, what we've created there. It's very scientific based, but very easy to use. And we think that this is the solution to connecting everybody that's unconnected and underserved, not just here in the USA, but worldwide. If you notice, I just retweeted a tweet where we showed 10 air nodes at the beginning of this year. Now in Zanzibar alone, we've got 450 plus. Pakistan is about to come live on WMT scan. You'll see, hopefully before the end of this year, Reno with a very dense diamond class A++ mobile network. So we're in a very exciting moment. Mainnet for the Earth node operators is going to be incentivized during October. And then all real traffic will be passing through there, and we start to see the beginning. It's always the beginning until you get the explosive growth. But once you get the explosive growth, we'll bring on millions and millions and millions of users onto the World Mobile Network across different continents. So the rest of this year is definitely about USA. The beginning of next year will be about USA. But then we'll move over to our fourth continent.
Wow, and could you potentially talk about where that might be, where you guys are looking for next?
Not yet, because I'm embargoed by Mike.
Fair enough. Let's back up just a little bit. I want to say thank you, for the opportunity to break some of that news surrounding Oppan to the community. It's a humbling experience for myself to see how much trust you guys have put into myself to broadcast some of this news that hasn't been shared anywhere else. So I want to say again, thank you for that. Now,
Hard work earns respect.
Thank you so much, Mickey. Coming from you especially, that really does mean a lot. Now, you guys, as you mentioned, have put out, I believe, over 400 air nodes within Zanzibar. Do you mind just touching on what is next for that particular region? Obviously, we touched on Mozambique with the Aerostat. We've just touched on the United States. Do you mind maybe touching on Zanzibar? And then we're going to close this out with potentially some news surrounding Pakistan.
So Zanzibar, the sharing economy is growing itself, and that's exactly what we built it to do. So now if I carry on to grow the sharing economy with World Mobile trucks, with World Mobile employees, World Mobile people, it's not the best thing, because actually what am I doing? I'm just copying exactly the same methodology as existing mobile network operators or existing ISPs. No, that's not what I set out to do, and that's not what we're going to do. So now we're going to watch as it grows. Of course, we're there to give a helping hand if something stalls or something breaks or there's a logic flaw. But for now, we're watching, and we're watching new nodes go up. And we're not buying those nodes. Other people are paying for those nodes. People in the local communities are deciding that they want, and it's becoming wildfire. It's becoming word of mouth, because people are earning revenue from hosting these nodes. And actually, something that we have talked about in the deployment diaries is Kenya. Nigeria, keep your eyes open there as well.
Wow, seems like you guys have your hands in a lot of places all at once. And as you've mentioned prior, you guys are learning, iterating, and then applying that cookie cutter style model to where future locations where you guys are deploying can be done at a much faster pace than the previous, which I think is exciting to hear when it comes to projects like this, especially in crypto, where a lot of things tend to move rather slowly. So let's jump into the second to last thing, which is going to be Pakistan. Any news pieces that you can share with the community when it comes to that area?
Any moment we're expecting Pakistan to come live online. I would love to be able to tell people how many nodes there are, because I'm very proud of that, but it's going to be a nice surprise.
So just to make sure I understand correctly, there's already air nodes in that area. That information just hasn't been shared with the community.
Correct.
How impressive to hear. All right, Mickey, for anybody who's just hearing about World Mobile for the very first time, what would you like to share with them? And I guess, what would you like for them to know about what you're doing here?
Connectivity is a human right. You can be a part of that. Even just being educating other people, participating in staking, delegating to Earth nodes, running an air node yourself, or being part of the Earth node alliance and running and being an Earth node operator. But whatever you do is enough. So be part of the sharing economy, help people get connected, and remember that half the world can't speak to the other half of the world, and that is not correct.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mickey Watkins, CEO and founder of World Mobile, giving me a little bit of his time here at a busy week in Las Vegas. You guys just wrapped up Mobile World Congress and then came right over to the NFTLV event.
It's been about 45 or 50 meetings that we've had, closing up deals at Mobile World Congress, making new deals at Mobile World Congress, because of course we're a mobile network operator now in the USA. So we've entered into the big boys game. And it's a very, very exciting moment for us to be here and to be able to make a difference. Thank you very much. Pleasure, Fareed.
As always, thank you, Mickey. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Mickey Watkins, you're connecting the unconnected, serving the underserved. If you guys enjoyed today's video, as always, make sure to hit that like button. If it's your first time stopping by, consider subscribing. And if you have any questions for myself or Mickey, then make sure to go ahead and leave them down in the comment section below. And as always, we'll see you guys in the next video.
Stay connected.